Welcome to The Cap, where we are here to speak with college reps and other professionals in the field of college admissions to help answer all your questions and guide you through every step of the process. So if you're serious about college admissions, you've come to the right place. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. And now, here's your host, Dr. John Durante. Welcome to The Cap, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and I am here to introduce you to college admissions representatives and other professionals in the field of college admissions. Our purpose is to serve you, the students and parents, so that you may gain insight straight from the people who ultimately make the decisions. Regardless of whether you apply to a particular school being highlighted in a given episode, you should listen to all of them, as each guest will give you tremendous insight and advice on every aspect of the college admissions process, prompting you to come up with your own follow-up questions for when you visit campus or meet with a college admissions representative yourself. Don't forget to visit our website, www.collegeadmissionstalk.com, or the show notes of each episode to access the alphabetical list of all the colleges available with the related audio link to the right of each school. The alphabetical list provides you with on-demand access to all of the episodes so that you may listen whenever you wish. And if you want to receive links to episodes before they are released on the podcast, along with other related resources, please fill out the email opt-in form also available on our website and in the show notes of each episode. Lastly, please email me with any questions or comments at collegeadmissionstalk@gmail.com. So are you ready? Let's talk about it. Welcome to The Cap, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Bailey Fawcett, who's a Student Recruitment Advisor at the University of Calgary. Bailey, I am so happy to have you on here today. Yet another international school. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing great, John. How are you?
I am doing great. And so I have to ask you, Bailey, what would you say are the key benefits of studying abroad at a school such as the University of Calgary, particularly for students who are coming from the United States?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I tell students from the U.S. is I don't think Canada's the first place U.S. students usually think of when they're kind of think of studying abroad. So I think the nice thing is that one, we're relatively close. It's not a far plane ride away. You're not having to go across an ocean or anything like that. The other nice thing is that you're in a different country, but we're not culturally too different. So it's not too big of a culture shock. You'll still see different things happening. We have different nuances, but it's relatively the same. And then the other really nice things is that Canada is considered one of the safest countries in the world. We have a great quality of life. We're often ranked quite high, depending on who's ranking. Sometimes we're number one, sometimes we're top five. And then I think lastly, the really, really nice thing for students specifically is that you're going to have a study permit while you're here in Canada, but on that study permit, you can work up to 20 hours a week off campus. And the other nice thing is that you're eligible to stay for up to another 3 years after you graduate. So you don't have to leave Canada right away if you're having a great time.
Well, that's terrific. I appreciate the fact that you talked about Canada, which you're right. It's relatively close to the United States. You don't have to go over any oceans, and it's a different country, yet there are many similarities culturally. Very safe. I love that you mentioned that because that's very important to a lot of students and their families. And you talked about the work study opportunities, as a student in Canada. So we really appreciate that. And of course, academics, Bailey, is something that's really important for students and their parents considering different colleges. So can you provide an overview of your most popular academic programs and majors that the University of Calgary, of course, is known for?
Yeah, this is definitely a very hard one to pinpoint down because we have over 250 different program
Wow.
combinations. So there's a lot to choose from. But I'd say our most well-known one academically is kinesiology. We're one of the top kinesiology kind of sports science programs in North America. And that's because we have really cool professors who are doing fascinating research. We're actually one of 4 universities partnered with the NFL for concussion research. So
Wow.
those professors are trickling down into your education and definitely teaching you that top research. On the other side of things, we also have a really great creative writing program. Our program, bolstered by our connection to Calgary, distinguishes writers program, has garnered both national and international recognition, making it one of the most dynamic and vibrant areas on our campus. And then lastly, our engineering program is really, really great, especially because Calgary, the city itself, is Canada's engineering capital. So really, really great internships and work integrated learning opportunities for our engineering students right here in the city.
That's awesome. Over 250 programs, integrated opportunities, particularly for your engineering students, and kinesiology, sports science. You're one of four universities partnered with the NFL to work on concussions, which, of course, is so important out there. So,
hmm
what advice do you have for students considering studying abroad at the University of Calgary?
Yeah, I think the best thing is connecting with us early. Like even if it's just an inkling, you haven't 100% committed to it yet. Uh, there's me. I specialize in U.S. curriculum and
Hmm.
students, so you can always connect with me. I have an email, WhatsApp. We do virtual meetings. I come down to the U.S. a couple times a year. So there's lots of ways to connect with me and other recruiters on our campus. So connecting with us early is the best advice I have. It's our job to support questions. So even if it might seem like a silly question, even if it's a question about Canada, the culture in Canada, things like that, that's what I'm here to answer. And then the other thing is, if you ever have the opportunity to actually visit Calgary, we offer campus tours, both private and public. So I always recommend students coming and trying to visit our campus. I think Canadian campuses can look quite different from
Hmm.
campuses in America. So I always try to recommend, if you're thinking about it, come visit us. A really great way to do that too is we also have an open house, which will happen October 26th. So that's a great way to come see the campus as well.
Well, that's fantastic. So, as a follow up, you mentioned that Canadian campuses look different. So, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think what I kind of mean by that is quite often when I'm visiting the U.S., I have counselors asking me, do you have buses or scooters that students can rent to take across campus? And that's something I've personally never heard of here in Canada. And that's just because most Canadian campuses, not all of them, but we tend to have walkable campuses. So our campuses are kind of like their own little city. And to get from one side of campus to the other side of campus, at least here at U Calgary, is only a 15-minute walk.
Hmm.
So you're never having to run across
Right.
campus or taking a bus or a scooter to get from class to class. It's really, really easy to get from one building to the other building.
Well, that's awesome. And what else could you tell us about the student life experience at the University of Calgary? And what kinds of extracurricular activities and organizations are available to students to help, of course, foster that sense of community and engagement?
Yeah, so we have over 300 different clubs, and those
Wow.
clubs really, really range on what they're offering. So there's academic based ones. There's probably a US club for students from the
Hmm.
US. There's sports based ones, volunteer based ones. So, really, whatever you're interested in, there's probably going to be a club for you. And the nice thing that if you come and one of these 300 clubs doesn't suit you, the student union will actually give you funding to create your own club as well. Outside of the clubs, we also have 50 different intramural teams. So that could be maybe you want to try hockey, playing hockey in Canada at a beginner level. It ranges from beginner level to people who maybe are trying for the NHL still. So we have hockey, dodgeball, kind of all of those regular intramural sports, as well as all the great athletic facilities that those intramurals are hosted on right on our campus. And then we also have varsity sports, just like you guys do.
Hmm.
We have a football team, swimming team, volleyball, basketball. Those events get a pretty great turnout, so students can go watch that. And then I'd say the last thing that I think is pretty unique to us is we actually have something called maker spaces. So
Hmm.
these are different kind of labs on our campus. They range from like 3D printing to vinyl cutting to fabric and textile design. There's way more than I can ever remember, but these are just spaces that are open to students. You can go in whenever you want. All you have to do is kind of take a class on how to train yourself on how to use the equipment. And then once you've done that class, you can go in there whenever the space is open, which is kind of regular working hours. They are included in your tuition, and you can go in there and make as whatever you want with a 3D printer.
Well, that's awesome. You mentioned earlier over 250 academic programs. We're going to add to that over 300 clubs, 50 intramural teams, varsity sports, and of course, those maker spaces, which of course help students with the innovation. So that's terrific, Bailey. We appreciate the overview. And what is your approach to the admissions process itself, particularly in terms of the criteria and factors considered when reviewing applications from especially international students? And are there any specific challenges or nuances that international students should be aware of during the overall application process?
Yeah. So this one, I think, is where we really stand out compared to other US universities that students might be applying to or colleges, just because the Canadian curriculum in high schools is fairly different from the American curriculum. So we kind of have to make some general rules that we apply to students coming from the US to kind of make it even for everybody, but also comparable to our Canadian students that are applying. So I guess the first thing I should start with is applications open August 15th, and they are open until March 1st. So a pretty long application period. It is a rolling application, so we always recommend applying earlier. Really, as soon as applications open in August, we recommend those students start applying. The next thing is accreditation. Since it is a different curriculum from Canadian high schools, we do only accept courses taken in an accredited high school or through an accredited homeschooling program. If you're ever having questions about if your high school is accredited or accepted by accreditation that we're going to accept, you can email me. That's basically my whole job right now, is making sure schools are accredited. So I can definitely tell you. But now onto those kind of general rules. So admission is only ever based on 5 courses. So what those 5 courses are depends on the program you're applying to. So something like a Faculty of Arts program, it might be an English course, and then it could just be 4 other approved courses. So really any academic-based course that you took in high school. Whereas something in like engineering is going to be English, pre-calculus, calculus, physics, and chemistry, and those are the only 5 courses we want to see. So how we're going to look for those 5 courses is we want it to be a grade 12 equivalent. And we say that because in Canada, for students to get something like a biology credit, they have to take it in grade 10, 11, and 12 to get a biology credit, which we know is very different from the US. So
Sure
our
is.
kind of rule that we apply is that if you take something at the AP or honors level, regardless of what grade you took it in, we're automatically going to count it as a grade 12 equivalent. So AP and honors level are kind of like the golden star. We're always going to accept those. Same with IB courses. An IB course is automatically going to be counted as a grade 12 course. Then if you're taking a mainstream course, if you take it in your junior or senior year, or grade 11 and grade 12 year, we're also automatically going to count those as a grade 12 equivalent. You take a mainstream course in your freshman or sophomore year, so grade 9 or 10, those ones we're only going to count as a grade 11 course. So those ones can only be used for early admission, and then we'd still need to see a grade 12 equivalent kind of when you graduate high school, so at that grade 12 level as well.
Well, we appreciate that. The fact that you talked about Canadian curriculum is definitely different than that here where I am in the United States. So, Bailey, I always put the Office of Undergraduate Admissions in the show notes. If there are any other notes that you wish to share with the students and their parents, just provide it to me. And of course, I'll make it available in the show notes. You also talked about the fact that you are rolling admissions. The applications do open on August 15th, and they're open through March 1st, which is a long period of time. As a follow-up, Bailey, is it beneficial to apply early, like on that August 15th opening day?
Yeah, I wouldn't say you need to apply right within the first 24
Hmm.
hours, but those students that are applying, let's say in the first 3 months of our application cycle, are getting an extra chance of being evaluated, let's say 3 times instead of 2 times for the students who are applying maybe in January.
Understood. We appreciate that. And what about standardized tests? Does the University of Calgary require them for international applicants? And if so, how are these scores used in your admissions process?
Yeah, so we actually don't use any sort of standardization tests. So we don't accept SATs or ACTs. If we have a mature student who took the SAT subject tests back when those used to be available, we will accept those, and you can actually use those as a course replacement. If you didn't take math in high school, for example, but you took the SAT subject test, we can use those. But outside of those SAT subject tests, we're not looking for any standardized tests. It's really just the transcript that we're looking at for those 5 courses.
Understood. And of course, cost of attending is a big factor for so many students and their families. So, Bailey, what financial aid or scholarship opportunities are available for international students? And can you elaborate on any merit based or need based scholarships specifically for those international applicants?
Yeah. So we offer tons of scholarships. So I'm gonna kind of break them down into 3 categories. So the first kind of category is prestige awards. Prestige awards are a category of awards based on academic performance. The application takes some time to complete, as we may request reference letters or other supporting emails. So students should apply early if they want to be considered for awards in this category, but prestige awards are the highest monetary awards and the most competitive that we offer. An international example, because some awards are open to international students, some are open to Canadian citizens, they kind of vary, is that within our prestige award category, there's an award specifically for international students called the International Entrance Scholarship, and it's valued at $20,000 per year, and it's renewable for 3 years. So you could end up getting it for your entire university kind of career. They range kind of from 10,000 to 20,000. These ones are essay-based, so they're looking for high-achieving students. Students have had volunteer experiences, life experience, all sorts of things that you can write about yourself. And the application for that one's actually December 1st. So it closes before our main application cycle kind of finishes. So it's for those students who are applying early, high-achieving students, really prepared students who are getting all of their application stuff done really early. The next kind of category is our high school entrance awards. So this one's actually quite easy, and we recommend that all students do this. It's a category of awards where we consider things like extracurricular activities, financial need, and academic performance. So this award application is also just available kind of as our general application, and it is a relatively quick application that qualifies students for numerous awards with a wide variety of criteria. These ones are valued from $500 to $10,000, so a little bit lower in that monetary value, but students can receive more than one of them. So this application kind of consists of 100 different awards that you're being considered for, but it's one 15-minute check yes or no survey. So with that one 15-minute check yes or no survey, you're being considered for over 100 different awards. And yeah, those ones really, really vary, but I highly recommend that one for students. It's really simple. It's only 15 minutes of your time, and you never know. There's awards for everything. There's over 100 in that category, so one of them is probably applicable to you and your situation. And then the last kind of category that we have is our automatic entrance awards. So these ones are the ones that are strictly based on merit. So these ones are for students who we calculate their incoming admission average as 95% or higher. So I know in the US, you guys often receive GPAs or letter grades. So that'd be kind of like a 3.7, 3.8 is what we're looking for. And I think it's important to note here is that we only use unweighted GPAs. So this is a 3.7 on an unweighted 4.0 GPA scale. And then again, that's also only calculated using those 5 courses. So we're not looking at your whole overall high school transcript. We're looking at those 5 courses, depending on what your program you're applying for is. And we're looking for that 95% GPA. And then if you have that, you automatically get $5,000. And it's just kind of easy as that. You don't even have to do a separate application. We're just automatically going to consider it for you when you apply to the university.
Well, that's terrific. And I appreciate you emphasizing that you're only looking at the 5 courses and the unweighted GPA, because many schools, particularly in the United States, some of them look at the unweighted, some at the weighted. So it does vary. So I appreciate that clarity. And you mentioned all of these different awards, which is phenomenal, again, because so many students and their parents, the topic of cost is so important to them. So I appreciate that. And again, if you have any links specific to the awards that you reviewed, please provide them to me. And again, we'll put them in the show notes. You mentioned earlier that the transcript, of course, is extremely important in your overall review. What role do essays or personal statements play in the University of Calgary's application process? And are there specific topics or qualities you look for in these submissions?
Yeah, so our admissions are grade-based other than a few programs. We do not look at essays, personal statements, or counselor letters. So the one program that we are looking at essays in is our health sciences, so our Bachelor of Health Sciences. There's 3 kind of majors within that program that will require the essay. For that one, it is a statement of interest. They're really looking for you to say why you think you would be a great candidate for the program, why you think you would be successful doing the research that's involved with those degrees. We'd actually recommend reaching out to the faculty to figure out what specifically they're looking for, because it may change year to year. So we always recommend reaching out to the faculty themselves to kind of figure out what they're wanting. Outside of that, though, for students applying to any other degree at the University of Calgary, it's just the one transcript that you're handing in.
Well, again, emphasizing how important that one transcript really is. So let's talk about when the students actually come to campus. What support services does the University of Calgary offer to help international students succeed academically and culturally?
So the first that I'd say is the most important for international students is actually International Student Services. They're on campus and they have a really great website that's really easy to navigate. They're really specialized in supporting immigration, getting settled in Canada, and they host tons of events for students to help them feel connected. And they can really help you find maybe another student that's from the US or even from the same state as you. They do advising sessions, they run webinars and have mentorship programs as well. So you could even be partnered with a fourth year international student as an incoming first year student. Outside of that international student support services, though, we have lots of general, really great student support services for all students on campus. So the first is student wellness services. They're right here on campus. They do your kind of regular walk-in doctor's appointments. They also do therapy or counseling, and then they also have a kind of like physiotherapist or massage therapist. So if you're ever having any of those medical needs, we have all of those covered right on campus. And your tuition does include a health and dental plan, so all US students can easily access all of those services. And then in terms of other kind of supports, we have a women's resource center open to all students, not just women, but it's a really great place for kind of events. They host lots of networking events to meet other students, maybe like a friendship bracelet making class, lots of fun
Hmm.
events with them. We have a Q space for LGBTQS students. We have a writing symbols lodge, so that's kind of Indigenous support. And then we also have the Center for Career and Personal Development. So this is a really, really big one on campus. They're kind of your job networking help. They're going to host major networking events at least once a semester. I'd say it's more like 2 times a semester. We can go network with major companies in Canada, but also international companies as well. But they can also help you build a cover letter. They do LinkedIn workshops. They can help you do practice interviews even sometimes. So lots of really great support there. And then in terms of academic support, we have the Student Success Center. So this is kind of your tutoring. We have peer-led studying. So that's kind of where a fourth year who's maybe done the class that you're doing as a first year is going to help guide you through that first year class. And then we also have really great writing support where you can actually take an essay that's just like jot notes. You haven't even started writing it yet to a fully completed essay, and they're going to give you feedback and make sure you're successful in completing those, maybe those first year university essays.
Well, there's definitely lots of resources for everyone. And I appreciate how you talked about almost like a peer program, right? Where you connect students with other students. And whenever possible, if a student is coming from the United States, to connect them with someone from their state would be amazing. So at least, they're starting with someone that comes from their home area, yet you're at that beautiful thing we call the University of Calgary. And of course, for students coming there, housing has to be a very important topic. So, what housing options are available for international students, Bailey? And are those options available for the students throughout their 4 years abroad?
Yeah. So we actually have a really great residence program. I actually lived in it myself for 4 years because I'm not originally from Calgary. I'm from a different city in Alberta. Um, so I actually really, really love talking about residence just because I think it's really fun and a great experience
Hmm.
for students. But we do offer a couple of different options for first years, and then you can live in residence all the way up to your fourth year. So for first years, we have the traditional dorms, kind of what most universities offer, that 1 bedroom with the two
Hmm.
beds that you're sharing with somebody else, the communal bathroom per floor. But if you're wanting a bit more space, we also offer apartment style dorms for our first year students. And the really nice thing is that if you apply for residence before May 1st, you are given an automatic guarantee for having housing. So you don't have to worry about being put on a wait list or anything like that. It is an automatic guarantee. So that's the biggest perk about residence, I'd say. Once you get into fourth year, the rooms get a bit bigger. You can have like a kind of 4 bedroom styled apartment.
Hmm.
There's townhouse styled rooms. So really, really nice. Those ones have full kitchens, so you don't have to get a meal plan or anything like that. And I guess when talking about meal plan, I'll mention that first years are required to get a meal plan, and that's just because their rooms don't have a kitchen. So there is no way to provide for yourself. But the dining center offers really, really great food. It's kind of an all you care to eat meal plan. So you pay a flat rate and then you could go in and eat like 10 meals a day if you wanted to, and it doesn't change the cost of anything.
Well, we really appreciate the overview of the housing. And this has been a phenomenal conversation, Bailey. We're so happy to have you. Before I get to the last question, is there a question I didn't ask or a topic I didn't bring up that you would like to address with our listeners now?
Yeah, I think I have a question for you at the end, but before I get there, I think sometimes it's helpful to kind of explain the city of Calgary as well, especially to students coming from the US, just because I find quite often students from the US don't know where Calgary is. So I like to give a little bit of context about where we are. So we are in a province of Alberta. We're right above kind of the Montana-Idaho border. We're on the east side of the Canadian Rocky Mountains, right beside Banff National Park. And Calgary is actually the fourth largest city in Canada by population. So
Hmm.
not quite as big as Vancouver, Toronto, which are the normal cities that people know of, but we are kind of up there. The really nice thing about Calgary is that we're the seventh most livable city in the world. It's a very safe city. It's easy to get around and lots to do. We have tons of ski resorts near us if you're into skiing, those winter sports. We also have a really, really big kind of festival rodeo thing that we host in the summer called Stampede. It's known to be the greatest outdoor show on earth. So definitely recommend coming to Calgary for that. And then my favorite part is that we have Canada's sunniest major city. So we have really great weather here in Calgary. I know lots of students from the US get worried about the weather up here in Canada, but in Calgary we have a pretty temperament weather. It's pretty good for us, and lots of sun. So those are kind of things that I think are good to know about Calgary and the city itself if you're coming to Canada thinking about which city you want to go to. But before we wrap up, my question for you was how many other Canadian universities have you talked to before?
Wow. Well, I did a panel discussion with some international schools, so Canada was definitely represented. But other than that, you're it, Bailey. You're it.
Oh,
So
wow.
congratulations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored that we're the first Canadian school.
Absolutely. Definitely the first one where it's one-on-one. And, we really appreciate your time today. This has been awesome. And I've actually been getting more and more emails from parents and students asking about international schools. So I'm really excited about this episode. Unfortunately, it does bring us to the last question, which is what other advice would you have for students and their parents going through the college admissions process, especially when it's a student from the United States looking to study abroad?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this earlier, but I think the best advice I can give is to reach out early. Even if it's just an inkling that you're having in grade 11, reach out to us because then we can go over maybe those program specific courses you need, really making sure you're taking them in your senior or junior year. We can help set you up with a virtual campus tour if you're not able to get here on campus. We have lots of resources, whether it's myself or our international student services that are here to help you get to U Calgary and be a successful applicant. So my biggest advice is really just reaching out to us and we can help guide you along that application process.
Well, that's awesome, Bailey. And the University of Calgary, obviously, they are so lucky to have you, as were we, on this episode. I'm so grateful, as I know that this is going to help so many students and their parents as they navigate the process. I do hope to have you again, Bailey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. And to everyone out there, good luck with the college process. Take care, everyone, and best wishes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please don't forget to tell a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, John Durante, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The CAP.